Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Scoops AFL Draft Recap Night 1, the first round. The rest of the rounds will be done tomorrow evening. As you can tell, I'm doing a night-by-night recap, so how I'll do it, if you haven't been watching previous videos, obviously I'll recap Night 1 tonight. After tomorrow night, the plan is to recap Night 2 tomorrow night. Then after the rookie/preseason drafts on Friday afternoon, I'll do a full club-by-club recap Friday night, most likely for then. So this is not going to be grading the team's performances. It's more so going through the selection, some good moves, some bad moves. We saw some clubs bid on players and those clubs match, but we also saw two clubs pass on their own academy NGA players, which is very, very interesting. We'll get to that. Hawthorn had to shuffle picks back, missed out on two key targets. And then they brought in two future seconds in the process, but lost two players in the process, and then picked up one of the steals of the night in Aiden Schubert at their pick 23, when he easily could have been around pick 10. So they got one of the steals, then also stuffed up twice and missed their two key targets. And let's not get it twisted. Hawthorn really wanted Lockie Dobberson and Dyson Sharp, and they missed both, hence why they traded back twice. So let's not get it twisted. They didn't do that great, but they revived themselves at the very end of a steal at the end. So, I mean, in the end, you can say, oh, well, two future seconds on top of Aiden Schubert for the two picks they originally had. You know, it works out in a way, but anyway, I love adding, Essendon adding some really good players, then also making some bold calls on their academy players and passing. I loved what they did. Melbourne, they started well, then had the biggest blunder of the night. Richmond did what I predicted in my Phantom draft by picking Sam Grill, and oh, how correct I was. I got absolutely abused by a lot of people online for saying, oh, Sam Grill, not going to go to Richmond that early. You were on something. Well, nah. Who's right? Kel Toomey, the so-called expert, didn't even predict this, but I did, because I have the sports footy knowledge. I am the draft guru. I don't see anyone else nailing these predictions like that. That prediction, I saw no one else say. Outside of people saying he's in the conversation, but they did not have him at the top of the chain for Richmond to pick. I had my inside information, and I told you all that's where they were heading, and that's exactly what they did. Xavier Taylor went to Melbourne, did not go to Richmond, so they picked up Sam Cumming. You know, I'm going to go through every pick by pick for night 1, which was 25 selections, and some players that surprisingly did not get picked tonight that are going to be very, very good options, and they include Javan Filippo, Ollie Greaves, Blake Threadgold, and Archie Ludowick. The big four still available in North Melbourne. They have the first pick tomorrow night. I'm sure they will have offers. If I was them with Lockie Dobberson joining the Roos, I'd be picking up one of those four players unless the offer is too good to refuse. Now, please subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the bell for all notifications. Now, every pick, player by player, pick by pick, trade by trade, I post every single move on my Facebook and social media channels. I'm the only platform that does it for every player from pick 1 all the way to pick 80, the big and the small pick swaps. I post them all. I'm the only page you're going to get this from, and consistently, efficiently, and quickly. I do this for everyone else. I love covering the draft, the trade period, the match day vlogs, the interviews, the Gold King challenges, covering the podcasts weekly on the AFL, AFLW, VFLW, etc., all the other state leagues, having players on from all those leagues and having them on my channel. So I do this for not only me, but I do this more importantly for all of you. Just remember that. So I'm posting this and recording this about 10:30 at night. I don't see any other channels doing that. And if they do, they don't have any knowledge around the draft, trade period, or whatever they're talking about more than I do. So I would really appreciate if you could share this around. Get people that are not subscribed to subscribe. If you are subscribed, thank you. And please like the video and share it around. Now, for any draftees that are watching this that didn't get picked up, There's always night 2. There's a rookie draft and preseason draft. If it doesn't happen, just remember, players can get drafted at late 20s, early 30s. I mean, Richmond had a premiership player who was about 30 years old who debuted and got picked up as a mid-season draftee at 30 years of age or thereabouts. In the AFLW, A-Lee Sheeran is a 2-time All-Australian and maybe a premiership player in North Melbourne this year, come this time next week, or close to this time next week. She was drafted at Richmond's AFLW at the age of 29, back-to-back best and fairest, back-to-back All-Australians in the first 2 years in the competition. Now, this year at the premiership side in North Melbourne, could be a premiership player. It just shows to you all that it doesn't matter your age, you can still be drafted. So never, ever give up. And for everyone that got drafted tonight and will in the next few days, just remember this. Never forget where you came from. The people that knew you before you were drafted, they are the people that matter the most, not someone that now wants to know all about you because you now made it to the big time. And a key advice, outside of congratulations, and it's well deserved, but never forget where you came from and never leave those people that helped you along the way or supported you along the way. Never leave them behind. Let them all be part of the journey because they're your true number one supporters. The people that knew about you, spoke to you before the draft, they are the people that matter the most. Not someone that's now suddenly seen, oh, this guy's been drafted, now I'm going to give a crap and talk to them. Never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from. It doesn't matter how much social media followers you have. The ones that matter are the ones that supported you throughout the pre-draft journey. Just remember that. Never leave any of those people behind. Right. Now, pick one. Now, how I'll do this, and I'll basically say what I thought on each club's selections and moves and bidding and not bidding. So if pick one, West Coast selected Willem Dersma, which was the obvious choice, utility. Willem, who I've had on the podcast last year, can play everywhere. He can play midfield, he can play forward, he can play half-back. He's a tall, athletic player, a utility. He can play everywhere from the Gippsland Power. Great addition for the Eagles, and obviously is long touted the number one pick for a fair while. Pick two was Zeke Hewland, the brother of Brody Hewland. Part of their academy, can play wing, can play through the midfield, can play a bit of everywhere, Zeke Hewland. West Coast placed a bid on him, and Gold Coast clearly would match. Zeke the Freak, they call him. Zeke Hewland is a great selection for Gold Coast, and West Coast are obviously going to place a bid, and obviously Gold Coast were going to match. That's not the only time we see Gold Coast and West Coast going at it, by the way. Pick three, West Coast placed a bid on Harry Dean, the father-son of Carlton, and Carlton clearly matched. And pick three, Carlton selected key defender Harry Dean, touted as one of the best key defenders in this draft. It was an obvious choice and obviously was going to happen. At pick four, West Coast selected Cooper Duff-Tytler, a key forward ruck from the Calder Cannons in Victoria. West Coast, Duffma, as they call him, Cooper Duff-Tytler and Willem Dersma together from Victoria. Obviously, West Coast needs some key position help, and Duff-Tytler can provide that as a key forward. As he said, that's where he'll start his career, but hopefully he'll get into the ruck probably 4 years down the line. Now, pick five, Gold Coast matched the bid from Richmond for Dylan Patterson. So Gold Coast select Dylan Patterson from their academy. Silky kick, great decision maker. Is AFL ready right now? I could argue he's in my real top three players in this year's draft: Dylan Patterson, Dan Annable, and Dyson Sharp. That's just my personal opinion. This is an absolute steal, a weapon, a left footer. People aren't going to talk too much about him, or they haven't been talking too much about him outside of saying, oh, he's an academy player, top draft prospect. He's going there, and then they forget about it. Dylan Patterson, he's a left footer. He kicks the ball really well. He bursts through backs. People want to use comparisons of Jordan Dawson and people that are very similar to Jordan Dawson. I think he can be a better player than how Jordan Dawson plays right now. He gets a lot of the ball, but does a lot of damage, and players that damage with their disposal, they're more important than some people that just get bigger numbers that do nothing with it. Dylan Patterson is a great selection for Gold Coast. He will play alongside Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson in their midfield starting round 1 next year. Guarantee you that. Likewise here, pick 6, Brisbane match Richmond's bid for Dan Annable through their academy. Dan Annable was ready to play AFL this year. Brisbane have said this themselves. Dan said this himself. He'd be more than capable. Dominated VFL for them this year when he played some games there. He's AFL ready. He would have played this year. He'll play round 1 with Will Ashcroft and Levi Ashcroft, Josh Dunkley, Lockie Neal, Hugh McCluggage, Jasper Fletcher. Wow, they're a scary team in the Brisbane Lions. Dan Annable is going to be another key asset to the Brisbane Lions come round 1. Obviously, touch wood with injury. He will play if he's fit and available. He will be playing round 1. Supercoach lock for me is Dan Annable, most likely, unless he's not playing midfield, and then we'll go from there. But if he plays midfield, lock for me. Great selection. Dylan Patterson and Dan Annable, back-to-back picks, match bids from Gold Coast for Patterson and Dan Annable for Brisbane. So that means Richmond do start the proceedings now. At pick 7, Richmond selected Sam Cumming, a midfielder / medium-sized forward from North Adelaide in the SANFL. Kind of burst on the scene this year mainly. A bit of a quick, skinnier type player, but can move around nicely. Richmond kind of need players like that in their side, with a whole range of other things. There was probably 4 players they were choosing between. It was Sam Cumming, Sam Grill, Xavier Taylor, and Sullivan Roby. You couldn't really go wrong either way, but Sam Cumming's a good selection. With pick 8, Richmond selected Sam Grill, the midfielder from the Oakley Chargers. And I'm telling you right now, he's quick. He's really strong. He can run, he can kick, he can tackle. Sam Grill will grill his opponents. He will grill them. He will smash them in the ground. He'll chase them down. He'll tackle them. He's a great selection. Now, I wasn't going to toot my own horn and brag about this, but I told you all so that Sam Grill will go to Richmond. I got absolutely crucified online. People going, oh, you don't know nothing. Leave it to the experts. There's no way in hell that Sam Grill's going this early. Newsflash, everyone. He did. And that's what I said. Even your so-called experts on the AFL website didn't even have Sam Grill going there. And Scoops was right. And they were all, maybe you should start listening to me more often. And maybe, you get more information correct, like I've been giving and providing lately. If you look at all my exclusives lately in the AFLW, and AFL, Gold Coast related news and Richmond, I get a lot of that correct. Maybe you should now start acknowledging me as the true draft guru, trade guru, AFLW guru. I know what I'm talking about. AFL guru. I know it all. Sam Grill, great selection. That aside, Sam Grill is a perfect selection. The type of player Richmond need. A runner, a tackler. Richmond need everything. You think of Sam Laylaw. I think Sam Grill is a similar type to Sam Laylaw, but he's a much, much quicker player. I think he's a much more complete player than Sam Laylaw is. He might be more of a burst player, but Sam Grill can do that. But he can also run as well. And I think that's what separates him from Sam Laylaw, who's not that quick, where Sam Grill is really quick. And he's a good tackler on top of that, which is what Laylaw is like. Now, fun fact, Sam's have been drafted together. Sam Cumming, Sam Grill will go join Sam Laylaw at Richmond, against Carlton in round 1. So, fun fact there. Now, Essendon with their back-to-back selections didn't bid on anyone, so pick 9 and 10, they drafted Sullivan Roby, a midfielder / forward from the Eastern Rangers, and pick 10, the first semi-surprise for the night, Jacob Farrow, a midfielder defender from West Perth in Perth from the Waffle. Jacob Farrow and Sullivan Roby. Whoever Richmond didn't get, Essendon were going to get. Roby and Taylor, I thought, though, were going to be the two, considering they're good mates. They're both at the Rangers. They normally draft mates. They met with Essendon late last week, along with Lockie Dobson, who I thought was a chance at Essendon's third pick, which they got through Carlton's trade. But that didn't happen. And when Sullivan Roby, Essendon need these goal kickers that can play through the midfield. That's something they really lack. Their midfield is old and slow, and there really is no midfield. They lost Setterfield and Shield and everyone like that. So they needed to add some more options, and Sullivan Roby can play that role along with Jacob Farrow. I think they missed a beat here by not picking Dyson Sharp, a pure midfielder. I thought they may have gone him over Farrow, but they didn't. And then I thought, well, Melbourne would have, or then Melbourne completely fumbled and stuffed up the entire draft for themselves, which we'll get to in a second. So Roby and Farrow, a good combination. But I'm more excited about what Essendon did later on down the track, which we'll get to shortly. There's two more things after these two selections that Essendon did that if I'm an Essendon supporter, I am not crying over. I'm really excited and happy that your club actually made bold moves. They made a statement in the trade period with Zach Merritt and said, you ain't going unless we get what we want. And we're not going to cough up a lot to get someone in just because you want them in. And that's what they did with their last selection tonight. And in fact, the last pick of the night, which we'll get to when we get to that, with pick 11 and 12, Melbourne were in a win-lose situation here. They were either going to completely nail the crap out of the draft here or they completely fail it. Now, with pick 11, Melbourne picked Xavier Taylor, a running halfback. Best on ground for Eastern Rangers in the grand final. A great selection. Best on ground in a grand final victory. Zave is a great selection. I've recently had on the podcast. Perfect selection. I thought if they can get Zave Taylor and Dyson Sharp, who's available, they can absolutely win this draft, hands down, no matter what, essentially, unless, of course, a top 20 selection end up going at 50, then it's a different story. But complete scenario for them, I thought they couldn't lose here. But at pick 12, they picked Latrell Pickett, small forward, soon to be 20 years of age from Glenelg, the cousin of Cozzy Pickett. Now, this is not a knock on Latrell Pickett at all. I think he'll be a very good player, a dangerous player in the forward line that could team up with his cousin, Cozzy Pickett. Melbourne need a lot of help in the midfield, okay? So Melbourne need midfielders, and they picked none so far. They could have picked Dyson Sharp, who outside of the academy boys, Patterson and Annabelle, I think Dyson Sharp is the best midfielder that they could pick and would be able to get without worrying about bidding and everything. And they completely fumbled the draft, Melbourne. They absolutely stuffed this up. They had their bias get in the way of actually nailing this draft. Xavier Taylor was the right choice, but picking up Pickett was a bias call to make his cousin happy. So you hope on the off chance he doesn't want to leave because now his cousin is there. Now, Fremantle did the same thing by picking up Isaiah Dudley, picking up Cozzy's cousin in hope that he would go to Fremantle. Obviously, that didn't happen, but Dudley had some moments this year and he got a contract extension after Cozzy Pickett signed a 7-year contract. Now, Cozzy Pickett has signed long-term contract extensions in the past and still wanted to move. If you check the last few years, he was contemplating leaving this year and then re-sign on a long-term deal. Before that, wanted to go to SA the previous year. Didn't happen because Melbourne didn't let it happen. And then WA 1 year. So, I think this was Melbourne trying to keep him happy more than worrying about what the future needs. They lost Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca in the trade period. Their best two midfielders they've had for a very long time. And they lost it. They brought in my man, the Jack Steele, the man of steel. They had the perfect 15-year player in Dyson Sharp, the best midfielder in this draft, and they completely fumbled here. They stuffed it up because they wanted to be nice to one of their current players. That's why Melbourne will not progress anytime soon. They are going to finish around the bottom 4 based off these moves they've made tonight. If Melbourne were fair dinkum, they would have picked up Xavier Taylor and Dyson Sharp. Or if they wanted a small forward, you could have gone Lockie Dobberson and Dyson Sharp. For me, it would have been Xavier Taylor and Dyson Sharp. They could not lose, possibly at all. If they went maybe Aiden Schubert and Dyson Sharp, again, would have been great selections. They really couldn't stuff this up, but they found a way to stuff it up. Now, people will say, oh, well, Latrell Pickett was linked around this selection. Yes, he was. But is that Melbourne's need? Was that an urgent need? Their urgent need is midfielders. Xavier Taylor, you can cop because he's a rebounding halfback that maybe over time can play midfield. But Latrell Pickett is a small forward. That is not a priority for them. A priority for Melbourne is midfielders. And they didn't pick up one when they had one right in front of them, Dyson Sharp, who has played Sanford football and has bloody dominated at the age of 18, the best non-academy player midfielder in this draft, was available and you stuffed it up. Now, you could say, oh, well, Richmond did it as well, right? And Essendon did it. Well, see, here's the thing. It was more of a need for Melbourne more than it was Richmond. Richmond have Laylor, and they picked up 2 midfielders anyway, a mid forward and a pure mid. Okay? They've got Jacob Hopper, Dion Prestia, Tim Taranto. So they've got midfielders. Whether you think they're good or not, that's completely irrelevant because they've got some, and they've got good options and experienced options there, and they've got Laylor and everyone they brought in. So it's understandable. Now, Essendon, who eventually did end up getting Dyson Sharp, will be over the moon. I feel like they took a big gamble doing it this way, but it worked. Now, if Melbourne were to take Jacob Farrow, I mean, I wouldn't be too upset if I'm Essendon because Dyson Sharp's the best midfielder there. Essendon look like geniuses. So Melbourne failed this draft period. I don't care who they pick up on their last pick or however many more picks they got, they failed. They needed to address midfielders, and they didn't even pick up one. Do Melbourne forgot? Have they forgot that they lost Clayton Oliver and Christian Petrarca? Did they think that Latrell Pickett plays midfield, or what? Did they forget that Dawson Sharp was available? Did they click the wrong button on the computer? No knock on Latrell Pickett. I think he'll be a great addition for them, but that is not their priority as small forward. They could have found a way to trade one of those future firsts that they got from Gold Coast to then entice whoever, the Giants, Adelaide, whatever, to bring in Pickett a few picks after. Dyson Sharp was right there in front of you and you fumbled. That is completely embarrassing, and Melbourne recruiters should all be sacked. Their biased selection got in the way of their future of their football club. Next year, Melbourne will be bottom 4, bottom 6 at best. They are going to be easy beats for the majority of teams that are actually good in 2026. Not a knock on Latrell Pickett. Not a knock on Xavier Taylor. Xavier was actually one I said they should have got, and they did. And this ain't a knock on Latrell Pickett. As I said, I think he'll be a great player for them and a good choice. But it wasn't the right choice when they need midfielders. Bad move from Melbourne. Bad move. Pick 13, Essendon selected Dyson Sharp. They would have been doing cartwheels in there. Matt Rosa looks like a genius now. This is the steal of the draft. Aiden Schubert, further down the line, is a big steal as well, considering where he could have landed. But Dyson Sharp is the steal of this trade. Pick 13 for a guy who I think is better than the majority of this whole draft crop. I think he's better than Cooper Duff Tyler, Zeke Hewland, and I think he could compete with Willem Dersma, and he's along with Dylan Patterson and Dan Annable. That's how highly I rate Dyson Sharp, and clearly Essendon took a big gamble, and well, it paid off. Dyson Sharp, an amazing selection for the Bombers. When Zach Merritt leaves next year, most likely, obviously it'll be a killer blow, but they'll bring in all these picks, and Dyson Sharp will be there, at least for that year. Hopefully for them, he doesn't go home. But Essendon have done really well here. Great selection. Pick 14. GWS placed a bid on... Oh, sorry, this is where Hawthorn traded their pick with the Giants, where they got an extra future second and slid back 2 spots. And Sydney selected Harry Kyle, a medium-sized defender and midfielder from their academy. GWS placed the bid, and obviously Swans matched. I think it's a great selection. Left footer, got good ball skills and everything like that. It'd be a good selection. The Swans wouldn't have wanted it to be this high, as we now will get to very shortly when we get to the Bulldog selection. Pick 15, the Giants selected Oscar Taylor, a medium-sized defender who shot out of nowhere, didn't play any Vic Metro this year, who had on the podcast. Great to see Oscar be rewarded with a top 15 selection. Very modest guy, humble guy. Didn't want to pump himself up. Didn't want to pump himself up too much. But, you know, for a guy that didn't play Vic Metro, never played state champs, under 16s, 17s, 18s, did not play it at all. And to be a top 15 selection, he should be really proud of that. A couple of the Giants, just the range of, from the Eastern Ranges, the draft range he went, it's a credit to the work he's put in. So be proud, Oscar. That's a really good effort. And I think, a future play for the Giants. You got a lot of players. It's going to be a tough team to get into. But hey, the Giants like playing players like Oscar in the team at any point in time. Now, Hawthorn then had the next selection and traded again. So then North Melbourne selected and they picked Lockie Dobberson. So, actually, it wasn't that pick. It might have been the one after. So they had the chance. That's right. Yeah, it was the next one. It wasn't this one. So they missed out on Dyson Sharp by trading back 2 spots. Funnily enough, Essendon got him. Then they went back 2 spots and missed on Lockie Dobberson as well. So they fumbled twice. North Melbourne get a small forward. They really need. Now, if North Melbourne with their first pick tomorrow use the pick, it has to be a tall Archie Ludowick, even Javan Filippo, or Blake Threadgold, a tall defender, because key forward and key defenders is what they really need. But Lockie Dobberson, a goal kick, 53 goals in all footy this year through Coates League and all that, Vic Metro, etc. Great selection. Has a lot of Jack Ginnivan and Watson traits as a footballer, probably off-field too if you listen to his interview before. But a great selection for North Melbourne. They really need small forwards. Well, they need a bit of everything, let's be real, except for midfielders. So great selection for North. They couldn't really stuff this up. Maybe Melbourne should have taken notes from North Melbourne, who had picks later than them and still did better than Melbourne, who had 2 in a row and stuffed it up. Pick 17, West Coast, did that trade with Hawthorn. So Hawthorn cracked the shits when they missed out on Dobberson as well. They missed out on Dyson Sharp. They missed out on Lockie Dobberson. And then West Coast placed a bid on Jai Murray. Smart, strategic, making Gold Coast pay. They really wanted Bo Adensall, where Gold Coast were not guaranteed to match it. And even if they were, it was going to hurt their points for the last few, Kobe Colson, etc. But Gold Coast did match the bid and selected Jai Murray, a midfielder, a tall player, medium-sized defender from their academy. Great selection for them. But at pick 17, they would have hoped it was later. And West Coast placed the bid, but Suns match and Jai Murray, they get their man. Gold Coast also get their man in Bo Adensall, who West Coast placed a bid on, a midfielder who I rate really highly as well. The Gold Coast Academy boys are really highly rated for me, as they are competition-wide. Clearly, West Coast agree with me. Again, so they know what they're doing. But it took a while for Gold Coast to match this, probably working out the points, and don't want to take the gamble here. And do we want to go into points deficit? Obviously got Kobe Colson to think of as well. Later down the line, maybe early to late night too on the main draft. But, West Coast placed the bid. They tried, didn't work. But they can't complain with their next selection. One of the steals of the draft, at pick 19, West Coast selected Josh Lindsay from the Geelong Falcons, a medium-sized defender, left footer, can run. He's got elite ball use, great running power. He's going to hurt opposition with that booming left foot kick. Left footers, some left footers lately are damaging. Josh Lindsay will provide that. The best Lindsay to come out of the draft in the last 2 years. Josh Lindsay will be a great asset for West Coast. They've nailed this draft for West Coast. They couldn't really stuff it up, but they've nailed it. If they got Bo Adensall, that would have been an even better selection. Josh Lindsay is a equally great selection as well. West Coast have done really well. So Hawthorn had to pick. They went back twice, missed out on Dyson Sharp and Lockie Dobberson. So this time they just thought, stuff it, we've got to pick someone now. And they picked Cameron Nan from the Central Districts in the Sample. A great selection. We've kicked 7 in the state championships games. Cameron Nan played on the wing as well, so he can play up the ground. He's speaking on AFL website today about his position, where he thinks he can play. Playing wing and forward. Their strong forward line they had in the state championships, Schubert, Mitch Marsh, etc. They did really well and they gelled really well. And Hawthorn, we get to the next few selections, picked another one in similar range. At pick 21, the Western Bulldogs selected Swans Academy halfback and midfielder Lockie Carmichael. The Swans opted not to match a bid. Now, they had Max King and Noah Cumberland to worry about. So I actually thought they would actually match Lockie Carmichael, and then if Max King's bid came in the next 15 or so selections, they would not match him. I was actually hoping that, and hoping St Kilda might get a go at another Max King. 2 good players named Max King would have been great. But it's not to be. because he'll now be matched by Swans with them passing on Lockie Carmichael. They probably thought maybe it was a tad early. There are a lot of halfback midfielders that would have loved Lockie Carmichael, but it's a greater selection for the Bulldogs. This is why the academy clubs can't keep you out and waving. The Bulldogs did what they did there. Bulldogs would be shitty they didn't get Josh Lindsay, because that was exactly the play they wanted. I know for a fact that's who they wanted. So sucked in, just like Hawthorn got sucked in 3 times, and now Bulldogs copped it here. So, yeah, that's what you get. With pick 22, Adelaide got Mitch Marsh, not the cricketer, the footballer from West Adelaide, a medium-sized tall forward, just kicks goals. And this is a really exciting selection for Adelaide. He grew up barracking for the Crows, South Australian, probably didn't expect to go here. He thought he may have been gone a few selections before. Crows should be really happy. Got a future Tex Walker replacement. Play alongside Darcy and Thilthorpe in the forward line, and they can do really well for the future. The Crows forward line, really dangerous forward line going into the future, and next year with Tex there as well. Pick 23, key forward from South Australian Central Districts, Aiden Schubert, the Shoe. Pick 23 for Hawthorn. So in the end, Hawthorn did it right. Nan and Schubert, both from South Australia, part of the 2 of the 4 forwards that dominated the state champs for Adelaide, for SA, sorry. So in the end, they've done all right, but they've, not got their 2 major targets they wanted. Schubert, I'm really, really excited for them. Cameron Nan had some really impactful games. I think he'll be good, but I'm more excited for them with Aiden Schubert. But they're both probably going to take a bit of time, and they missed their key targets as well. Pick 24, Geelong selected Harley Barker, who's coming off an ACL injury, a winger from Sturt in the Sample. Played well in the state champs, but got injured late in the season, and unfortunately for them, he probably won't play much, if not at all, at Geelong. People on the coverage were saying, it's a good selection because they don't need to rush everything, which I agree with that in a way, but still, you want to pick players to play now. But Harley Barker was around this range anyway. I thought Geelong were going to take a Javan Philippou, or actually Ludovic, someone to replace Jeremy Cameron in a few years, who's coming off a PCL injury, but they didn't. Now, one of the other big shocks of the night, pick 25, Fremantle selected Adam Swade, a small forward midfielder from the Calder Cannons, part of Essendon's NGA Academy. They opted not to bid here. Now, this is a random selection for Fremantle. I wonder if they thought that Essendon were instantly going to match. I could have told you they weren't going to match this. It's not that Essendon don't rate Adam Swade. It's just they don't want to go into points deficit. And to be honest, Essendon didn't need to pick him. They got Sullivan Roby, who's a very similar player and can play midfield as well. So they've got their like-for-like replacement. I'm sure Adam Swade would have been a good selection for them, no doubt about it. But in saying that, it wasn't a need after they got Roby into the club. Essendon did the opposite of what Melbourne did. They didn't push for fan favourites and everything like that. With Swade's a fan favourite at the Bombers faithful. They didn't pick him. They didn't pick with their heart. They picked with their brain. Something Melbourne did not do. See, Essendon could have easily done what Melbourne did and picked someone they knew really well and to make people happy. They're in the business of not making people happy, but making the right choice for their football club. They did that with Zach Merritt. I'm no fan of Essendon at all, but I'll give them credit when I need to give them credit. Their trade period, I was really happy with what they went. They went, no, stuff you, Hawthorn. You ain't getting Zach Merritt. You want to stuff our club up, you can get stuffed yourself. And in this trade period, draft period, they said, we're going to pick Farrow. And then Melbourne stuffed it up and let them get Dyson Sharp for nothing, basically. Well, not for nothing, but you know what I mean. They didn't expect it to happen. And now they look like geniuses, Essendon. Matt Rose is going to get a lot of credit here. The people at Essendon who have copped a lot of flack lately, Brad Scott and everyone like that, they were ruthless. They told Zach Merritt, you're going nowhere, buddy. I don't give a shit if you're captain and how many times of a best and fairest winner in All-Australian you are. You're not going anywhere. The tough, ruthless energy they gave, they did it in this draft period as well. They probably said to Adam Sway, we'd love to keep you, mate, and have you on board, but we're not going to give up the farm for you, and we're not going to do what Melbourne did. And they didn't. They stuck to their gun. They did what they did, and they were very, very good. So far for me, if anyone's won the trade period, it's Essendon. If anyone's failed, it's clearly Hawthorn and Melbourne by the length of the Flemington Straight. Great job by Essendon. Fremantle, interesting selection. do they really need more small forwards? Because Switkowski and some other guys there as well, Murphy Reed. I don't know why. This is a bizarre selection for me. They got Blake Threadgold, who's an SA intercept defender, Javan Filippo, an X-factor mid-forward, more of a taller type, Ollie Greaves, an inside mid, and Archie Ludwig, future key forward. And no bid on Jack Ison, who plays midfield, Carlton's NGA Academy. So father-son. I thought they could have done that, but they didn't. Very bizarre move for Fremantle, but well done to Adam Swade for joining the Dockers. Maybe that was something he didn't expect to happen only a few days ago. That's a night one recap. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you all. Until the next video tomorrow night, most likely. Thank you. Come on, Saints. And who will North Melbourne take with their first pick on night 2? Or will they make a surprise and have someone offer the farm for that pick? I'm assuming that one of those selections, I'm confident that one of the 4 selections that North Melbourne, whoever has the first pick on night 2, will be either Javan Filippo, Ollie Greaves, Blake Threadgold, or Archie Ludwig. Thank you. Or is it Kai Fincher? Thank you, and go Saints.